Whenever you speak to a young person, especially under 30s, they tell you how difficult life is, that they are unable to save any money at all because the amount of money they receive from their employment, because they've just graduated from universities or doing a part-time job whilst at university, or this is your first job or possibly the second job, uh, most of the money that you get is already spent at the point they get paid. So for the younger generation, people say, they tell me that they just cannot find money to save. Now, this talk is actually not advice. It's not investment advice at all. It's a general thought process based on publicly available information, as well as perhaps by way of practical tips, nothing else. Now, the first thing is to build an initial emergency fund. That's the first thing you need. All of a sudden, there is some unexpected expenditure. You need to have quick access to some money. So, building an emergency fund is your first priority. It's like a financial buffer, a bumper. Now, the best way to do it is to put a small amount of money the day you get paid, not the day after, not a week from now, or not at the end of the month because I get paid next week. It doesn't work like that. So if I get paid today, I need to put some money into a savings account. Now, in this tech savvy world, most bank accounts that we have are online. And if you have a current account where the money, your salary goes into, these banks offer linked savings accounts. Now, not all savings accounts pay you the top savings rate. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just put the money in there. And if you say not a lot of money, but maybe 10, 15, 20 pounds every month to go as a minimum payment from your salary, that will simply start adding up. Now, in addition to that, you could easily look at prioritizing, or rather minimizing, your expenditure, which sometimes happens to be mandatory. If you have to buy a train ticket, weekly ticket, whatever, you can't travel without a ticket. But when you travel by train, go to work, etc., or go shopping, whatever, how many times have you had a cup of coffee with something to eat? Now, each one of us will have different answers, but most of us will say at least one cup of coffee a day. How much is a cup of coffee a day? And how many days do you drink coffee? I'm not asking you to stop drinking coffee or stop doing some expenditure that you want to spend. Enjoy yourself, but try and reduce that. And as soon as you can reduce that, at the end of the day, or at the start of every week, not at the end of every week, put that amount of money, that notional amount of expenditure, the expenses that you could avoid, put that into that savings account. Then all of a sudden, that 15 pounds a month plus the extra coffees that you didn't drink will add up. And then look at banks that offer a fixed amount of savings for a higher rate of interest. For example, there are banks in the UK where up to a maximum, not a full amount, up to a maximum of £300, if you save for a continuous period of 12 months, you will get a much higher rate of interest, something like 7%, a little over 7%. Now, I'm not saying you have to save £300 a month, but if you take part in one of those, you could save anything up to £300. So that way, you not only save money, the money is making the maximum amount of interest on it. So something that you need to look at very closely, the small print. Another thing would be to get another non-savings based emergency fund, is to talk to your bank, get an agreed overdraft, not an unagreed or not an unauthorized overdraft, but agree with the bank that you will receive into your salary receiving account, current account, an overdraft facility. Now, the best way is, if you don't have a good credit history, your first job, etc., most banks will say £300, £500 overdraft. Yeah, that's fine. Then build on that goodwill with a continuous monthly salary over the years, and then approach the bank and say, I want you to match my salary by way of an overdraft. If you can get much more than your salary, that's much better. So then all of a sudden, even if you dip into the red into your current account, your monthly salary will come the following month, and that will neutralize the overdraft. The thing is, with an agreed overdraft, you pay very little interest, and you pay interest on the amount that you borrow. With a unauthorized overdraft, it's like a credit card borrowing. So always look at, in addition to your regular savings, agree with your bank where you get your money, your salary paid into, for an agreed overdraft. The next thing to do is to prioritize your outgoings. What I mean by prioritizing outgoings is simply, if you have a number of expenses that you have to pay, check which of those expenses you have to pay the most amount of interest, like credit cards. For example, an example where you have a credit card with 0% interest and you have spent £500. And then you have another credit card which has a rate of interest of 15%. And again, you borrow 500 or £1,000 or £300. It doesn't matter. The question is, which one do you pay first? Not the first one, because the £500 after X number of weeks, months, will still be the 500, subject to the minimum payment. However, the golden rule here is that you pay the debt that charges you the highest amount of interest first, until you zero it down. So until that time, the other debts that you owe, you could pay either the minimum or a little slightly above the minimum. So that way you do not overpay for your borrowings, because overpayment is where the banks make money, financial institutions make money, because they make their profit on the interest. Another point to remember on prioritizing your debt and hedging your liabilities is to, whenever you buy something, don't buy it using your debit card. Because as soon as you use your debit card, the money goes out of your current account. Also, you don't have certain consumer rights that a debit card in the United Kingdom offers by statute, by law, that is. So if I were you, I would use a credit card to buy a computer, buy train tickets, airline tickets, pay for holidays, even clothing, whatever you want to do, you use your credit card, and hopefully you have the money to pay it off at the end of the month or before the interest rates on that borrowing apply. Or if you have a plan, pay it in 3 or 4 equal or unequal monthly installments, but don't use credit cards as long-term debt financing. So that's the other rule. Prioritize the debts, pay off the debts that have the highest rate of interest, use a credit card to buy normal purchases, because you have the consumer protection. Investing, now I'm changing from savings to investments. You don't need to be an expert on savings and investments. You need to do this as part of your lifestyle. Now, if you're in the UK, you'd have heard of individual savings accounts, ISAs. You'd have also heard of lifetime ISA, which is called LISA, Lisa or LISA. SIPs, self-invested personal pensions. Then also your employer or company pension schemes. These are all fantastic long-term savings and investment tools that come as part of the government's incentive for people as individuals to save and invest for their future. So we have a fantastic savings and investment infrastructure or a foundation offered by the government. It's up to you to make use of it. So let's talk a little bit about company pensions and self-invested pension schemes, SIPs. Many of my young friends and colleagues and even some relations tell me, oh, I don't need anything else. I have a company pension scheme. They're right. But equally, they're not being astute or prudent about their future. Because remember, the best would be to, of course, have your company or employer pension scheme and you contribute. And I would say you must be part of your company pension scheme for a simple reason. If you put a certain amount of money, which will be deducted at source from your monthly salary, your employer puts either a certain agreed amount, or most employers actually match your contribution. Now that is, the employer's contribution is free money. It's absolutely free money that you get for a commitment you make, and that commitment is you put money into your own account, for which the company then pays you a matching amount. That's why I call it free money, and it is. There is no catch. So even if you're self-employed through your own company, your company is different from you. You're an employee of the company. You might own the company, but you are still an employee. You get paid, PAYE, pay as you earn. Tell your payroll provider that they should start contributing, because by law you have to have a pension scheme and match your contributions. If you're self-employed, you can actually choose the employer contribution to be far greater. There are certain financial limits, but far greater than what you put. So you might put 2%, and the company happens to be owned by you, will put much more, 10%, 12%, whatever, subject to financial limits imposed by the government, which is fine. We are not talking the maximum limits here. We're talking of people who are under the age of 30, starting to save and then graduating into investments. So that's the company pension scheme. But in addition to that, just do a Google search on SIPs, SIPP, self-invested personal pension schemes. Now, a lot of young people think if you're in a company pension scheme, you cannot have a SIP. Wrong. You can have your own independent pension scheme where you are your own master. In a company pension scheme, the company's pension scheme trustees run the scheme for its members. Here, you can control your investment destiny. Hopefully, for that, you will need some form of basic plus financial knowledge. Don't worry if you don't have it at this point. Just start the SIP. Once you have money, that's a far better place to worry about where to invest the money. That's secondary in terms of your age-based priorities. Now, ISA, investment saving, individual savings accounts, and I said ISAs and lifetime ISAs. If you haven't bought your first home, make sure you use your £4,000 per annum every year. You have a LISA limit. Make sure you put off the 20,000 for overall ISA limit per annum, tax year that is. You put £4,000 into your LISA, and if you have money left, put it into your ISA, because If when you invest in a lifetime investment savings account or a LISA, for each pound you put, the government pays a contribution, something like 25%. So for every pound, you get 25 pounds. For every thousand, you get 250. What is it? Free money. Again, make use of the free money that you can put into your account. The downside of a LISA is that if you don't buy your first house, you can keep contributing to it until you reach the age of 50. So it's a very long term, like a pension scheme, scheme, the LISA is. But if you haven't bought your house, put £4,000 and all of a sudden it would have grown to a certain amount of money. By the time you want to buy your first house, you're a first time buyer, you can cash out the LISA because you have your own money that you have saved plus the government contribution, free money again. So that's very important. Before I progress to the next point, it's company pension scheme, SIPs, ISAs, LISAs. Those are the things that you need to think about. Just this conversation that you're listening to, or these tips, is just a pointer towards you checking out these things online. Now, the third point, or perhaps the fourth point rather, is be kind to yourself, because one of the most pressurizing things of a young person's life is how to balance your life with what you earn. Always not enough. And it's not just you in your generation. Every young person for the last 150 years under the capitalist system where we all work for, mainly most of us work for someone else, wage earners, they are under a huge amount of pressure. Right? So be kind to yourself. Do things that work for you, not that what works for me or your friends. Even these tips that I'm giving you, or the general talk that I'm making about publicly available information, you need to say, well, I need to go for a LISA, savings account LISA, maybe not a SIP right now, etc. Because all I'm saying is, like in a restaurant, I'm giving you the full menu. You need to choose what's best for you. Now, we still have people, even now you might be watching it and saying, well, all good, this guy is talking about how to save. I haven't got money to save because my salary is 1,000, my expenditure is 1,400. I'm always short of 400. Okay, in a hard-hitting way, find a better job which pays you better, because realizing your potential and maximizing and exploiting your potential is a self-awareness thing. You have to discover it yourself. I know a number of people who are very young people. They are very comfortable in their first jobs. I'm really worried for them, because that first job is a stepping stone towards your one's future. Because normally a first job comes at a slightly reduced pay. You have to look at career advancement, how to maximize your potential. Because remember, when they first employ you, they are employing you for your educational skills, possibly university skills, examinations passed, whether how you passed and subjects you did, not for your experience. But if you've been in a job for 5 years, you have gained in the job or on the job experience. I call it job as well as social experience, which is university of life experience. Your marketability is far greater than you were 3 or 5 years ago. So look for career and social advancement, because a lot of us forget and they just keep doing what they do, and eventually they will always be short of money. Now, if you're still short of money, another way is, as I said before, how many cups of coffee do you drink? Skip one. How many Fridays a month do you go with your friends, hang out with your friends? Try and cut it down to one and just save that money. You're not going to be antisocial. because be upfront saying, I'm saving for my first house. I don't think this week I can come and join you for drinks or have a party or whatever. So don't be afraid. People won't sort of say, oh, well, he doesn't join. Join by all means, but doesn't have to be a regular, a discipline base. I have to go and have drinks on Thursdays or Friday nights, and spend money with my friends. So with those monies that you would have spent, actually put that money not mentally, physically into your savings account. So if you're on your own, that's fine. Just do this thing the way I'm talking to you yourself. But if you have a partner, or if you don't, but you have your family, possibly parents who may or may not understand your lifestyle, or even friends, just have a chat, discuss, because it's far better discussing what you have, what you're thinking of rather, but don't be swayed by them. Listen to them, just the same as I'm talking to you. You don't have to follow any of these things. You need to do what is right for you, but access to information online, in person, friends and family, etc. Some even have what we call investment club friends. It's a fantastic way if you put your money in to fall out. Don't. It's just a talking shop where they talk about money and investments. Maybe you can talk about lifestyles. That's fine. But you then do select, take from those conversations what you think will suit you best, not what it suits the rest. You may be just a minority of 1 out of 10 in your friend circle, but you do what is comfortable for you. So those are sort of few guidelines, tips, thought processes based on my own experiences when I was young, as well as from the young people I interact with in professional and personal capacities in social life. So hopefully you got something from this video. And main thing is, do your research. It will take time. There's no point being in a rush. But the main thing is, do it today. Do not delay. It's called procrastination. Remember, tomorrow is always a today. Because when it's tomorrow, it's today. So if you don't do anything today, you will never do it. Think about it.